everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the tribe of Reuben. Just recently, it's kind of been on my mind. I want to do another series. I do plan on completing my other series of things that I'm doing, but I had to. It was too exciting. I was thinking about how I would do one video per tribe of Israel, and just kind of go over what I can find for now, and then later, when more information comes in as I go on researching, and once there's enough material, do additional videos for each tribe of Israel. So I pulled everything together that I could think of. Some of it we've talked about on the channel, but we're going to go deeper. I want to go over everything. I want to go over all the symbols associated with each tribe, their flags, the stone that's associated with them on the high priest's breastplate, their land, their blessings, everything. And we're going to rely heavily upon church material primarily, which is how it should be. But we will step outside a little bit and consider some commentary from a couple other places that, from what I can tell, it doesn't really contradict church doctrine, but it's maybe something to consider. Could maybe give us some insight into Reuben and his tribe. I wanted to do this because there's someone on the channel that had commented and said that they were from, I can't remember. I think it was Simeon and Levi, that their parent was from one of them, and then they were from a different one. And I would really like to see church statistics. The general authorities, they must have access. There must be some kind of query that they can run or something where they can look at reports and see the breakdown of the church. I'm pretty sure it's all recorded, and I get the sense just from different talks that I've heard that more tribes of Israel are starting to come on the scene through patriarchal blessings. One of the most notable mentions of that was by Sister Wendy Nelson, when her and President Nelson were talking to, a worldwide audience of youth in the church. It was the 2018 Worldwide Youth Conference, or devotional, called Hope of Israel. So I thought this would be good for anyone that's, from any of these tribes. Now, of course, hopefully you've done your own research at this point, like if you're from Reuben, but hopefully in this video, maybe something new will come to light that you didn't know before. So I'd be really happy if I helped you learn any more about your tribe. And I think it's important for all of us to kind of understand Israel. In my patriarchal blessing, and this isn't too private or anything, and I'm sure a lot of people have this in their patriarchal blessings, it tells me to learn about the tribes of Israel and the Lord's dealings with them. And I've always tried to, and this is, for me, this is now just like the next step. I want to go even deeper than what I have before. So, okay, so this is a stamp. We're looking at a stamp from the state of Israel. You can see it right here, and it's Reuben, and it has a symbol from that tribe. This is called like a mandrake, but we'll get into like this kind of stuff in just a little bit. First, let's start with the church website and what it says in the Gospel Study Guide. In the Old Testament, the eldest son of Jacob and Leah. So that's why I'm starting with him. He's the eldest. I'm just going to go in birth order. And Leah, of course, is Jacob's first wife. He wanted to marry Rachel. He worked for 7 years, but it wasn't proper, according to their tradition, that a younger sibling would be married before an older one. So Jacob married Leah, and then worked 7 more years, and then got Rachel, and then they're both of their handmaidens. Okay, although Reuben was the firstborn, he lost his birthright because of sin. The tribe of Reuben, in contrast to the man Reuben, from which it gets its name. Jacob's blessing to Reuben is found in Genesis 49:3 and Deuteronomy 33:6, and we're actually gonna read that. The tribe's numbers gradually diminished, and though the tribe continued to exist, it became politically less important. Reuben's birthright went to Joseph and his sons because Joseph was the firstborn son of Jacob's second wife, Rachel. And when it's saying second wife, it's Leah and Rachel were the two full wives. They were of a higher status, and Bilhah and Zilpah, they were lower status. And I have some theories about that. They're concubines, but it goes off on like a whole other tangent. So maybe some other time. But I think there's a reason for that. And it might be somewhat of a pattern. But anyway, let's just continue on. Okay, so come over here to the Bible dictionary. It has more references for things, but it doesn't really say anything that we didn't already go over. Okay, now we're in Genesis 49, and this is Jacob, Israel, giving his sons blessings before he passes away. And this is Reuben's blessing. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed. Then defilest thou it, he went up to my couch. So that was definitely unfortunate that happened. And, I think that we have to look at this. It's not like if you're in the tribe of Reuben, I don't think it's like to say that you're a bad person, obviously. No more than anybody else is for the transgression in the Garden of Eden, or for your parents' sins or anything like that. Everyone has their agency. So I wouldn't really focus so much on this. I think it is important to understand it and why the birthright went to Joseph and his sons. But aside from that, each tribe has its own gifts. And just like Brad Wilcox said in this recent fireside, which I took notes and did a video for, and I've mentioned it a couple times on the channel. You can go watch it. Someone recorded it. But basically, he was talking about, tribes and how they essentially, they determine what blessings you'll receive, through whom you'll receive your blessings, and then how you are going to bless others. He also talked about how President Oaks called the 12 tribes of Israel the government of God. And when everything's kind of restored, and we have all tribes and everything's good to go in the millennium, they're probably all going to have just different responsibilities and different things that they do. So it's important to think of that. But okay, so anyway, so that's what it says here for his blessing. Now, in this video that I did, I did a video called Jacob's Last Days Blessings on the Tribes of Israel, because I wanted to go back over those blessings and see how they apply to the last days, because these all apply to the last days. Well, actually, what I was doing is I was using the scripture citation index and looking up the term last days. And this is like a big, long series that I'm going to do, where I just want to go find every reference for last days in the scriptures, go over all of them. And this was, I think this was the first one, or maybe one of the first ones. But we found out something interesting in this video, and I'm going to go over it again in this video. I found this website here. This is like a Messianic Jewish website. So these are Jewish people that recognize Christ as the Savior. So they're Christian, but they still incorporate a lot of their different things from Judaism into their form of Christianity. But they know a lot about Judaism, and there was really good commentary on this blessing, and I want to share this with you if you haven't seen this yet. So they break it down. I wanted to see what's the Jewish opinion. about this scripture, about the blessings given to each tribe. Maybe it would give us some insight. Okay, so here's what they say about the blessing given to Reuben. And Reuben, meaning, meaning, behold, now a son. You are my firstborn, my strength, and beginning of my substance, excellent, exalted, and superior, fierce. You can see that the wording is a little bit different, but unstable as water, not to remain, because you, aliyat, went up, lying on your father's bed, when you, kolalta, defiled, profaned, desecrated, to my bed, you, Allah, went up. And then this is a quote from Sifrei Devarim. Reuben, my son, I did not rebuke you all these years so that you should not leave me and stay with my brother Esau. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's an interesting thought, that Jacob wanted him to stay with him instead of go with Esau, which probably wouldn't have been a very good influence. And it's like, okay, just, okay. Jacob begins his words over Reuben by stating that which once belonged to him. 1, the blessing and portion of the firstborn. 2, the role of priest, passed from patriarch to patriarch, in obligation of the firstborn, which was first despised by Esau, right? Because Esau would have gotten the birthright, but he rejected it. 3, the kingship, strong, exalted, superior. So each of these would now be given to the sons whom God had chosen. The rights of the firstborn would go to Joseph and his sons. The priesthood would go to Levi. Now, this is where I have to stop, because I haven't seen this said by any general authority or any church literature, so I can't say that this is doctrine, although it does make sense, but you have to treat it as just a Jewish view of this. But when you think about it, it actually kind of makes sense. But I haven't heard this said by anybody in our church. Okay, so the rights of the firstborn, according to these Messianic Jews, and I assume that this is the official Jewish view of this, the rights of the firstborn would go to Joseph and his sons. The priesthood would go to Levi, because his tribe would not participate in the sin of the golden calf. And Judah would become the tribe from whom Israel would receive her kings, like David, Solomon, and ultimately the King Messiah. Quote, but because you sinned, my son, the birthright is given to Joseph, the kingship to Judah, and the priesthood to Levi. End quote. That's by Targum Yonatan. The idiom unstable as water implies, or seems to imply, fast-flowing water and or the waters of the body. In other words, Reuben lacked self-control, rushing to sin sexually with Bilhah, his father's wife. Though once the firstborn head, the tribe of Reuben has left little mark in Israel's biblical history. Moses later calls Reuben, quote, small and in danger of extinction, in Deuteronomy 33:6. In the Song of Deborah, the prophetess rebukes Reuben for their indecision. While the Peshat, plain meaning, of the text refers to the act of sexual sin committed by Reuben, the rabbis interpret remez, hint, alluding to spiritual defilement. This is in part due to the repetition of the Hebrew aliyah, to ascend, which is often used in connection with Israel's ascent to Jerusalem for the Regalim Alayot festivals, Moadim. Quote, you defile him, Holy Spirit, who used to ascend my bed, end quote. Kanim. A couple more things. Sforno writes, alternatively, Yaakov, or Jacob, may have referred to Reuben's act as being a discretion of God's honor, or desecration of God's honor. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, he was the firstborn, but when he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph, son of Yisrael. So he is not reckoned as the firstborn in the genealogical record. 1 Chronicles 5:1. Okay, so it's a very, very, very interesting concept. Again, I don't know if it's true, but that's something to think about. If I was in the tribe of Reuben, I would maybe keep that in mind in case that turns out to be true about the priesthood going to Levi when it should have been Reuben's, and the kingship and the Messiah going to Judah. I don't know if it would have all come through Reuben if this hadn't happened. I don't know. Okay, now let's look at Deuteronomy 33, and let's see what Moses says. He says, "Let Reuben live and not die, and let not his men be few." Okay, so that's what he says there. Okay, let's move on. I tried to look in the Scripture Citation Index, searching for anything from the teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith to the Journal of Discourses to General Conference talks, and it's been hard to find anything, but it may take more look. Most of what comes up here is the name J. Reuben Clark, and if you don't know who that is, he was a member of the first presidency. Okay, called by David O. McKay. This was back in the 60s. So it's interesting, though. It's interesting that we had a member of the first presidency and also an apostle that decided to go by the name Reuben. In other words, abbreviate or only using the first initial of his first name, and then going by the full middle name as though to highlight it. Now, maybe that's just how, there's people that do that. There's people that decide to go by their middle name instead of their first name. So maybe it was a situation of that. And so when he was called as a general authority, he decided to just kind of keep it like that, but you have to do the J. Reuben Clark, or maybe he decided to, I don't know how it goes when the apostles go with their names. But officially, his name is Joshua, which we know that's a form of Jesus. Joshua Reuben Clark. And another interesting thing is that he is the first of 10 children. So maybe that's why they gave him that middle name. I don't know, but that's just kind of an interesting detail. Okay, so this is the land that Reuben received. This is from the church website. Here you see the land of Israel. Let's compare this to a modern day map. So Reuben would have been on this east side of the Dead Sea. Okay, so not on the other side of the Jordan River. He's on the east side, and it's not too big. I guess it's kind of comparable to the amount of land that Ephraim has right here. It looks like Gad to the north maybe has a little bit more. He has more land than Dan, Zebulun, Issachar. So I guess it's kind of like a mid-size piece of land, relatively speaking. Now, if we look at a modern day map, this is not part of Israel anymore. This is part of Jordan. Okay, and up here you have Amman. We've talked about Amman before because Elder David A. Bednar went there during a Middle Eastern tour, and there's actually a history to this city, but I don't know. Well, you see the name right here, Ammon, right here. So I don't think that this city would have been within the borders of Reuben. It doesn't look like it. But as of today, that piece of land is not part of the modern day state of Israel. It is squarely within the country of Jordan. Okay. Now, Another way that you can look at this, because we've talked about the similarity between, and this is like, this has been known for a long, long time, the similarity between the Dead Sea and the Great Salt Lake in Utah, and then the Sea of Galilee and Utah Lake in Utah, and then they both have a Jordan River that connects them. So take a look at this, okay? Now it works out perfect to where Jerusalem is, if you turn it upside down, let me do that. Will it not let me do that? What the heck? Sorry, give me just 1 second. Something changed on my browser, and it's like, there's got to be a way. I need to be able to turn it around. Whatever. Okay, just if you turn it upside down, you see that Jerusalem is essentially, it like corresponds to where Salt Lake City is to the Great Salt Lake. So let's go over here to Utah. So if you were to like put an overlay on this map and kind of like stretch it so that it matches. So Salt Lake would be the Jerusalem, right? Here's the Jordan River. It's like going down like this. So Reuben, if it was like Utah, they would be, well, kind of like over here in no man's land. I guess the closest would be Grantsville. Grantsville? Wait a minute. I thought I read this over. Yeah, born in Grantsville. Look at J. Reuben Clark was born in Grantsville. If Utah if Utah was Israel, it looks like he would have been born in where Reuben's land would be. Yeah, because like here, if you take the bottom, like if this is like the Great Salt Lake and we're looking at this upside down, you take the south edge of the Great Salt Lake and you kind of go straight out, but maybe a little bit more south. Let's go over here. So here's that and a little bit more south. I don't know. It's close. Maybe he would have been in Gad, but that is interesting. Anyway, this kind of area right here, this would have been the tribe of Reuben if you wanted to like correspond to the Salt Lake area. All right. What else? Let's see. J. Reuben Clark. Okay, so that's the land. Okay. Now, when the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness, they were broken up into their different, divided up into their different camps, and they camped at a specific place in relation to the tabernacle. So the tabernacle, of course, is in the center, right? It represents God's presence. You have the Levites. They're just kind of like all around the tabernacle, because when land was being assigned, the Levites didn't get land. Their inheritance was the Lord, right, and the priesthood. So they didn't get land, and in this camp, they didn't have like a specific encampment like this. So Reuben was in the middle and on the south. In the middle and on the south. And you'll notice that there's tribes that are a little bit more prominent than other ones, two of which would be Judah and Ephraim, and you can see that they're in the middle of their group of three. So Ephraim is in the middle of the western group of Manasseh and Benjamin, and then Judah is in the middle of Zebulun, I don't know, and Issachar in the east. And of course, the east, that's where you would enter the tabernacle from. So yeah, Reuben is in the middle spot in this group of three, which is kind of interesting. So I feel like that's kind of in fact, I think I have something here that says that he was kind of like the tribe was in a leadership position of these three, this group of three, Simeon, Reuben, and Gad. Okay. Now let's look at his, the stone, the gemstone on the breastplate that represents the tribe of Reuben. Here's the high priest. Hopefully everyone has seen what the high priest looked like. back then, and here's the breastplate, and you have 12 stones. You have 12 stones. So you come down here. Okay. Here's what it looks like. Now, we're looking at the Temple Institute website. They've recreated everything. They've done exhaustive research to do the best that they can, so that everything is as authentic as possible. Okay, so here's a look at the breastplate, and let me just read a few things here. The colors correspond to the tribe's banners. And we're going to go over that in just a minute. But the banners are like this. See, you have the flags, you have colors on them. You see Reuben right here, red. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, in reality, the only fact which is known with absolute certainty is the color of each stone. So they don't really know the actual gemstone that's supposed to be there, just the color. Although absent from the biblical passages, this is recorded by the Midrash, Bamidbar Rabbah 2:7, where it states that each tribe's stone on the breastplate matched the background color of its flag. The tribes of Israel camped and journeyed according to their ensigns during the years of their desert travels. Talking about this, right? Thus, even if some doubt exists with regard to the scientific classification of the gems themselves, we can still be certain as to their appearance based on the midrashic description of their colors. Again, arbitrarily using the 12 most representative names, we have chosen for the purpose of listing them Reuben, which I guess what they decided on was ruby. Ruby for Reuben, red. Okay, so up here, now based on what I read, this actually goes from right to left because that's how you read Hebrew. So this right here would be Reuben, and you'll notice, let me see if I can pull this up in another tab and zoom in. You'll notice on Reuben's stone, you have like the name of the tribe in the middle, but then on Reuben's stone, he has additional writing around the sides of it, and there's a reason for that we're gonna look at that in just a second. Okay, so Reuben, if you're of the tribe of Reuben, your stone is ruby. It'll be of great interest to the reader to learn that over the course of nearly a decade, scholars at the Temple Institute of Jerusalem have conducted intensive research into the identity of the breastplate stones in an effort to reach a working conclusion that will allow the Institute's artisans and craftsmen to actually conduct a kosher breastplate, which will fulfill the biblical requirements for the stones and thus be able to be worn by the next high priest. So they've put a lot of effort into this. How were the tribes arranged on the breastplate? Above, regarding the two, well, I don't need to read that. There's like these two stones that are on the high priest's shoulders. But in the context of the stones of the breastplate, Scripture gives no such indication. Therefore, there's some controversy as to the order in which these names appeared. In the opinion of Yonatan ben Uziel, author of an Aramaic translation / commentary on the Torah, the children of Israel's names were inscribed on the breastplate stones in the order of their birth, and were therefore arranged in the following manner. And then here's a picture. So Reuben right here, Shimon or Simeon right here, Levi, so on and so forth. And here's Joseph down here, but we'll talk about that when we get to Joseph. Okay. So I guess it would be a shared stone between Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay, so, and again, on this one, this looks a little bit different from the other picture that we were looking at. But you see like Reuben in the middle, and then there's additional writing on this stone. Okay. Another Aramaic translation, the Yargum Yerushalmi, places the order of the tribes according to the matriarchs. The 6 sons of Leah, 2 sons of Bilhah, 2 sons of Zilpah, and 2 sons of Rachel, thusly. And then there's like a different order there. When the reader tries to visualize the breastplate based on this information, he should bear in mind that in both cases, the order which meets the eye is actually reversed, since Hebrew reads from right to left. Okay, so we just talked about that. There's also a tradition which Moshe, that's Moses, received at the Sinai revelation that all 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet should be present on the stones. Since all these letters are not found in the names of Yaakov's progeny, or Jacob's, sons, several other words were also engraved upon the stones. The names of the patriarchs, Abraham, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the words, the tribes of Yeshurun. One opinion is that the words Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appear at the top on the first stone over the name Reuben, and the others on the last stone. Others maintain that all these extra letters were divided among the stones. So here's yet another picture, and you see that additional writing here. So what did it just say? It said that, well, I guess it was talking about how there's like even controversy there. So whatever the case, on Reuben's stone, it has additional wording so that all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet could be present on here. And between this stone and the last one, it would have the names of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and what did it say? The tribes of Yeshurun. Okay, so that's why it has additional wording on it. All other stones just contain the name, with the exception of, the last stone, if I'm understanding this correctly. Here's another, we were just looking at that. Okay, flags. This is from the Friend magazine, June 1985. Let's see. Reuben's flag was red with figures of mandrakes. Okay. Here's Reuben's, this is like what's it called? Crest, or coat of arms. Yeah, coat of arms, sorry. So right here, Reuben, mandrake. And a mandrake is the root of a plant historically derived either from plants of the genus Mandragora, found in the Mediterranean region, or from other species such as Bryonia alba. The English mandrake, which have similar properties. Okay, so for some reason, it's a mandrake. And you can see right here in this picture, there's like these two fruit-looking things coming off of them. The one on the bottom left, where it says faux mins, that appears to show up in the iconography for the tribe of Reuben. So in case you're interested. So here you have, so let me go to the top. I can't remember if there's anything up here that I highlighted. This is a Wikipedia article just talking about the tribes of Israel, and it does a breakdown of different things. Okay. They have their map here of where all the different tribes receive their inheritance. And then when you get toward the bottom, that's where you get these. So Reuben, in this case right here with this picture, would be this plant right here, which I guess is a mandrake. Okay. I have no idea where mandrakes are used. Do you use mandrakes? All I really know is that we're not going to have any mandrakes in our garden unless it goes by some other name. And then on the coat of arms, it's this. Okay, now I don't mean to be graphic here, but it's a it's a naked man or boy or something with a red background. Okay. Here's okay. This is right here, the Reuben flag according to the Midrash. So this is what I was talking about. That weird kind of fruit type of thing. So it has like two of those, and I think on the stamp it has the flower and the leaves, but I guess on the flag over here, it has the whatever that is. Okay, what else do we got? This is talking about the banner. The tribes of Israel had banners described by the Book of Numbers, such as the Lion of Judah. Jewish writers have diverged on whether the banner of Reuben bore the symbol of a man or male child, a mandrake, or a child holding a mandrake in his hand. So there's some confusion about this. In this picture, it doesn't look like he has anything in his hands. It's just what looks like a man. I think that looks like a man. But so there you have it. That's the symbol. Okay, now just a few more things. Okay, this is from the Old Testament student manual. Reuben, the first of Jacob's sons, lost the birthright through transgression, and it was bestowed upon Joseph, who was the most worthy of all the sons of Jacob. So you'll see here, it doesn't talk about the priesthood being taken from Reuben or the kingship, although I don't know. So I don't know if that's incompatible or just not how it is, but we should give first priority to what we find in church material. And then if nothing else is said, you can kind of keep that as, just something on the back burner. Maybe something like that will come up later in the millennium. Okay, land for Reuben and Gad. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's look at where'd that map go? You'll notice that Reuben borders Gad. Gad is on the north, and it looks like that's the only other tribe that it borders. It's hard to tell from this this map, but it doesn't look like it even touches Ephraim. It comes really close, but it looks like Gad, Reuben, and Ephraim all have access to the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea. There's like this little piece right here from Gad that seems to come down here to the Dead Sea, so I'm guessing that Reuben and Ephraim did not border each other. So anyway, Reuben and Gad. Okay. While the children of Israel were on the east side of the Jordan River, waiting to cross over into Canaan, the tribes of Reuben and Gad asked Moses if they could have their inheritance on the east side because they thought the land looked good for cattle. I can understand that. I have cows. Moses told them that the other tribes would be upset if they did not help conquer the land on the west of the Jordan River in Canaan. The main body of Israelites felt that conquering Canaan's inhabitants would be hard enough with all 12 tribes. Reuben and Gad agreed to send their men to help with the conquest until every tribe had an inheritance. They would, however, leave their women, children, and cattle behind on the eastern shore. Moses agreed to this arrangement and also gave half the tribe of Manasseh an inheritance on the east of the Jordan as well. Okay. And then I think there's supposed to be a graphic here, but with these some of these older things, it doesn't load or it's not on here. Okay, so let's go back. So Gad and Reuben wanted this land for their cattle. That's why they asked Moses if they could do that, and he said yes, but they did help Israel get their land as well for all the other tribes. Okay. What do we have here? Okay, this is Old Testament student manual as well. Okay. Numbers 2. Why was there a specific order of march and camping? God's house is a house of order. See D&C 132:8. In symbolic representation thereof, so was the camp of Israel. Okay, so now we're talking about, where is it? We're talking about this. Okay, the order of march, the where everyone should camp. And again, here we have Reuben on the south, and right next to him is Gad. So there seems to be kind of like some kind of relationship between these two tribes. But between Simeon, Reuben, and Reuben seems to be the leader, and I think this is where it talks about that. The tribes were deployed in 4 groups of 3 tribes. On the east side of the camp and at the front of the moving column were Issachar and Zebulun with Judah at the head. On the south side, in second position, were Simeon and Gad. Yeah, here you go, under the leadership of Reuben. So in this case, again, even though he lost the birthright, in this instance, while they're wandering in the wilderness, Reuben had a position of leadership over these 2 other tribes. In the middle were the Levites. On the west and fourth in line of march were Manasseh and Benjamin, led by Ephraim. On the north and in the rear were Asher and Naphtali, with Dan at the head. The places of honor at the head of the hosts and immediately following the tabernacle were held by Judah and Ephraim, respectively. Judah camped directly east of the tabernacle entrance, and then, of course, Ephraim on the west. Okay, now, Old Testament student manual. Okay. After affirming that Joshua had the power and authority of Moses, the Lord charged him to make the law the basis of all he did. He was not to vary from it, and it was not to depart out of his mouth. That is, all that he spoke was to conform to it, and he was to meditate upon it constantly. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, who were to inherit lands already conquered on the east side of the Jordan, were charged to join the other tribes in conquering the rest of the land. These tribes showed their loyalty by accepting that charge and covenanting to put to death any who refused to do so. Okay, and now our last church website reference here. When Reuben returned to the pit, okay, now this is talking about the actual man, Reuben. When Reuben returned to the pit and found that Joseph was gone, he rent or tore his clothes, thereby manifesting intense grief or distress. Despite the grief Reuben felt, however, Reuben and his brothers dipped Joseph's coat in animal blood and gave it to their father, right, to try and cover up what they did. Now, to finish this off, I think I can read this whole thing. This is something that we talked about in a recent video. This is kind of like an apocryphal type body of work called the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, and supposedly it is the last words of each of the patriarchs of the 12 tribes talking to their children. Now, this is definitely not considered canon. This could be completely wrong, so we have to look at it more as just kind of like a separate study, or just something to kind of consider, because who knows, maybe some of this could be right, but I decided it'd be interesting to go over this. Okay, so this is the testament of Reuben, the firstborn son of Jacob, and Leah, chapter 1. And I think there's just a couple chapters, and they're not very long at all, so I don't think this will take too long. The copy of the testament of Reuben, even the commands which he gave his sons before he died, in the 125th year of his life. 2 years after the death of Joseph, his brother, when Reuben fell ill, his sons and his sons' sons were gathered together to visit him. And he said to them, "My children, behold, I am dying, and go the way of my fathers." And seeing there Judah and Gad and Asher, his brethren, he said to them, "Raise me up, that I may tell my brethren and to my children what things I have hidden in my heart. For behold, now at length I am passing away. And he arose and kissed them, and said unto them, Hear, my brethren, and do ye, my children, give ear to Reuben your father in the commands which I give unto you. And behold, I call to witness against you this day, the God of heaven, that ye walk not in the sins of youth and fornication, wherein I was poured out, and defiled the bed of my father Jacob. And I tell you that he smote me with a sore plague in my loins for 7 months, and had not my father Jacob prayed for me to the Lord would have destroyed me. For I was 30 years old when I wrought the evil thing before the Lord, and for 7 months I was sick unto death. And after this I repented with set purpose of my soul for 7 years before the Lord, and wine and strong drink I drank not. That's interesting. And flesh entered not into my mouth, and I eat no pleasant food, but I mourned over my sin, for it was great, such as had not been in Israel. Okay, now this is chapter 2. And now hear me, my children, what things I saw concerning the 7 spirits of deceit, which I repented. Seven spirits, therefore, are appointed against man, and they are the leaders of the works of youth. And 7 other spirits are given to him at his creation, that through them should be done every work of man. The first is the spirit of life, with which the constitution of man is created. The second is the sense of sight, with which ariseth desire. The third is the sense of hearing, with which cometh teaching. The fourth is the sense of smell, with which tastes are given to draw air and breath. The fifth is the power of speech, with which cometh knowledge. The sixth is the sense of taste, with which cometh the eating of meats and drinks, and by it strength is produced, for in food is the foundation of strength. The seventh is the power of procreation and sexual intercourse, with which love of pleasure sins enter in. Wherefore, in the last in order of creation, and the first in that of youth, because it is filled with ignorance, and leadeth the youth as a blind man to a pit, and as a beast to a precipice. Okay, now we're on chapter 3. I think there's just like 4 or 5 chapters. Besides all these, there is an 8th spirit of sleep, which is brought about the trance of nature and the image of death. With these spirits are mingled the spirits of error. First, the spirit of fornication is seated in the nature and in the senses. The second, the spirit of insatiableness in the belly. The third, the spirit of fighting in the liver and gall. The fourth is the spirit of obsequiousness and chicanery, that through officious attention one may be fair in seeming. The fifth is the spirit of pride, that one may be boastful and arrogant. The sixth is the spirit of lying, in perdition and jealousy, to practice deceits and concealments from kindred and friends. The seventh is the spirit of injustice, with which are thefts and acts of rapacity, that a man may fulfill the desire of his heart. For injustice worketh together with the other spirits by the taking of gifts. And with all these, the spirit of sleep is joined, which is that of error in fantasy. And so perisheth every young man, darkening his mind from the truth, and not understanding the law of God, nor obeying the admonitions of his fathers, as befell me also in my youth. And now, my children, love the truth, and it will preserve you. Ye hear the words of Reuben your father. Pay no heed to the face of a woman, nor associate with another man's wife, nor meddle with affairs of womankind. For had I not seen Bilhah bathing in a covered place, I had not fallen into this great iniquity. For my mind taking in the thought of the woman's nakedness suffered me not to sleep until I had wrought the abominable thing. For while Jacob our father had gone to Isaac his father, when when we were in Eder, near to Ephrath in Bethlehem, Bilhah became drunk and was asleep, uncovered in her chamber. Having therefore gone in, okay, this is getting kind of graphic, so caution. Having therefore gone in and beheld nakedness, I wrought the impiety without her perceiving it, and leaving her sleeping, I departed. Now, this is an interesting thing. If this is true, and there's nothing to say really that it is, I haven't heard anyone in the church, even talk about this. But if this is true, that is a really, really redeeming thing to say about Bilhah, right? That would be lovely if that's the case. Not that this is a lovely thing, but that would be really nice, a nice thing to think of Bilhah, that she didn't consent to it, because you never really hear in the scripture any chastisement of Bilhah, right? So maybe this isn't so surprising. I never really thought about it. She very well could have been a very virtuous woman. And forthwith an angel of God revealed to my father concerning my impiety, and he came and mourned over me and touched her no more. Okay, chapter 4. Pay no heed, therefore, my children, to the beauty of women, nor set your mind on their affairs, but walk in singleness of heart, in the fear of the Lord, and expend labor on good works, and on study, and on your flocks, until the Lord give you a wife, whom he will, that ye suffer not as I did. For until my father's death I had no boldness to look in his face, or to speak to any of my brethren because of the reproach. This is so sad. And this speaks to his character, because anyone can make mistakes, even if, even righteous people can. And, who knows what his spirituality was at the time he did this. Because like I said, you can still make mistakes if you're not careful. Maybe otherwise he was very good. And the way that this is portraying him, it makes it seem like he really had a change of heart and really felt remorse for what he did. Even until now, my conscience causeth me anguish on account of my impiety. And yet my father comforted me much and prayed for me unto the Lord, that the anger of the Lord might pass from me, even as the Lord showed. And thenceforth until now, I have been on my guard and sinned not. Therefore, my children, I say unto you, observe all things whatsoever I command you, and ye shall not sin. For a pit unto the soul is the sin of fornication, separating it from God, and bringing it near the idols, because it deceiveth the mind in understanding, and leadeth young men into Hades, before their time. For many hath fornication destroyed, because though a man be old, or noble, or rich, or poor, he bringeth reproach upon himself with the sons of men, and derision with Beliar. And Beliar, that's like another name. My understanding, that's like another name for the adversary. For ye heard regarding Joseph how he guarded himself from a woman, and purged his thoughts from all fornication, and found favor in the sight of God and men. For the Egyptian woman did many things unto him, and summoned magicians, and offered him love potions, but the purpose of his soul admitted no evil desire. Therefore the God of your fathers delivered him from every evil and hidden death. For if fornication overcomes not your mind, neither can Beliar overcome you. Chapter 5. I think this is the last one. For evil are women, my children. Okay, now I'm getting the sense that half my audience may not find much truth, or may not feel that this is an authentic document. For evil are women, my children. And so, And since they have no power or strength over man, they use wiles by outward attractions that they may draw him to themselves. And whom they cannot bewitch by outward attractions, him they overcome by craft. For moreover, concerning them, the angel of the Lord told me and taught me that women are overcome by the spirit of fornication more than men, and in their heart they plot against men. And by means of their adornment, they deceive first their minds, and by the glance of the eye, instill the poison, and then through the accomplished act, they take them captive. Now, obviously that could be true of like wicked women. This sounds like it's describing women who are wicked, and so anyway. For a woman cannot force a man openly, but by a harlot's bearing she beguiles him. Flee, therefore, fornication, my children, and command your wives and your daughters that they adorn not their heads and faces to deceive the mind, because every woman who useth these wiles hath been reserved for eternal punishment. Now, I'm sure that that's not true. Okay. Again, if this document is accurate, or if it's authentic, it's possible that things like this were changed over time, right? It could be that people inserted things in here, so who knows? So don't take this as scripture. Just like any apocryphal work, read it, consider it, listen to the Spirit. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here that I like that he's saying that sounds right to me. And this part, it may sound kind of harsh to Western ears, modern Western ears, but he could just be warning basically his sons, grandsons, like, hey, be careful. You do not want to do this. Learn from me. And women, please be modest. There are different standards of dress and grooming and appearance back in those days. So you have to look at it in that context. And we're still commanded now. Women, young women, it's not commanded, but they are counseled to dress modestly. Well, and I guess it is a commandment when it comes to like going to the temple, and you need to dress modestly. But think of it from that point of view. Don't be like, oh my gosh, he's so misogynistic. This is not my problem. This is the problem of the men that are looking at what's in their hearts. Okay, for thus they allured the watchers. Okay, so now this is starting to tie into the Book of Enoch. There's I'm not going to go into that, but if you want to know what the Watchers are, it's almost like they were like angelic beings during the time of Genesis. So anyway, for thus they allured the Watchers who were before the flood. For as these continually beheld them, they lusted after them, and they conceived the act in their mind, for they changed themselves into the shape of men, and appeared to them when they were with their husbands. And excuse me. And the women lusting in their minds after their forms gave birth to giants. Excuse me. For the Watchers appeared to them as reaching even unto heaven. Again, this is that, that's not doctrine, or unless something comes out later, we should really not hold that as doctrine. But anyway, don't get stuck on that idea. Okay, we're on chapter 6. Beware, therefore, of fornication, and if you wish to be pure in mind, guard your senses from every woman. And command the women likewise not to associate with men, that they also may be pure in mind. For constant meetings, even though the ungodly deed be not wrought, are to them in irremediable. Okay, that's like remedy. Irremediable disease, and to us a destruction of Beliar, and an eternal reproach. For in fornication there is neither understanding nor godliness, and all jealousy dwelleth in the lust thereof. Therefore, then I say unto you, ye will be jealous against the sons of Levi, and will seek to be exalted over them, but ye shall not be able. For God will avenge them, and ye shall die by an evil death. For to Levi gave the sovereignty, and to Judah with him, and to me also, and to Dan and Joseph, that we should be for rulers. Therefore I command you to hearken to Levi, because he shall know the law of the Lord, and shall give ordinances for judgment, and shall sacrifice for all Israel unto the consummation of the times, as the anointed high priest, of whom the Lord spake. I adjure you by the God of heaven to do truth, each one to his neighbor, and to entertain love, each one for his brother. And draw ye near to Levi in humbleness. And of course he's saying that because Levi, the tribe of Levi, they would be the priests. They would be the ones that have the priesthood. So, and draw ye near to Levi in humbleness of heart, that ye may receive a blessing from his mouth. For he shall bless Israel and Judah, because him hath the Lord chosen to be king over all the nation. And bow down before his seed, for on our behalf it will die in wars visible and invisible, and will be among you an eternal king. Okay, we have to be coming to the end here. I swear there was only... Okay, let's just keep going. I'm sorry. And Reuben died. Okay, so I don't think it's going to go on much longer. Sorry. And Reuben... Okay, it's not funny. And Reuben died, having given these commandments to his sons. And they placed him in a coffin until they carried him up from Egypt and buried him in Hebron in the cave where his father was. Okay. And then it goes on to the testament of Simeon, and we'll do Simeon in the next video, or the next time that I do another one of these videos. So this is something that's interesting. I feel like there could be a lot of truth in here. I feel like there could be some error in here. I'm not going to make this my doctrine, but I will take it into consideration and remember it. Stick to church resources. Stick to the scriptures that are part of canon. That should be our priority. And this is what I found out about Reuben. Okay, we'll probably do more videos in the future. Like I said, if I find out more information or more things to share. I'm sure that there is. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts, your information, things that you felt in the comments below. Also make sure to share this with anyone that, if you know anyone that's in the tribe of Reuben, and this might be a good video to share with them. They may learn something new, maybe not, but they might. And I'll talk to you guys later.